Jefferson Robbins with NCW Life. I'm joined now by Wenatchee Area Attorney Brandon Redal. Brandon, thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Can you tell me, sir, your area of law and how long you've been practicing?
So I represent people accused of serious crimes. All I do is criminal defense work. I've been doing that since 2004 when I was admitted to practice, and have been in Wenatchee since 2005.
So you have a lot of interface with prosecutors, with both the Chelan and Douglas County Prosecutor's Office, I assume, in court, exchanging emails, having meetings, working on case resolutions, or even facing each other at trial.
Absolutely. I primarily practice in Chelan and Douglas counties. I go to Grant County occasionally, also go to Okanagan County, and those are my primary locations of practice. But I'd say that 90% of the work I do is in Chelan County.
Can you tell me what you know, Brandon, about the criminal database that's generally called either Access or Spillman that's used by law enforcement?
Yeah, I can. First off, I should say that I don't have access to it, so I don't see it. Sometimes what I see are reproduced reports that are maintained, or at least law enforcement, when they begin to complete a narrative, oftentimes will start writing the reports from Spillman. So sometimes I see printouts directly from Spillman, but I don't have access to it. And what I do know of it is that, you know, if you have contact with law enforcement, and it could be something innocuous like you're a witness to a car accident, and you happen to call in to report, or you saw the accident, your information is going to go into Spillman. If you're pulled over, you're going to have a Spillman entry under your name. If you report a neighbor for, you know, a loud party or something, your information will go into Spillman, as well as confidential information about you, contact information, maybe who you're associated with, who was in the vehicle you were driving. And also I know that law enforcement can include notes. So if you aren't particularly cooperative, if you are seen as someone who's not friendly with law enforcement, that can be put into Spillman. So it's protected information that is really maintained by the government, that people outside the government are not privy to, and it's only to be used or accessed for the purposes of for law enforcement purposes or case purposes.
So a Spillman entry is not evidence. It's not something that's to be brought before a judge. It's not any proof that anybody's committed a crime. It's kind of a ledger for those folks who are investigating a crime.
I think that's a fair way of stating it, yes.
But as you said, it casts kind of a wide net. People's names get added to Spillman case files all the time.
Absolutely, every day.
A while back, Brandon, you learned that information about your family, specifically your spouse, had been searched for through the Spillman database. Can you tell me how that information came to your attention?
I can. Actually, an assistant within the prosecuting attorney's office, she's, for a long time, she's had a second job. She cleans offices, and she cleans our law office. And she's a person that I've known for, well, really since I've been here in the Valley. And I'd consider her a friend. And she came to me one Friday evening when she was there to clean, and I was still working, and she just said, "Hey, this was discovered, and you need to know about it because it's the right thing to do." And you know, as tough as that was for her, I'm sure, given her position within the prosecutor's office, she felt that it was right that I know this because she immediately knew it to be wrong.
And what it turned up was a number of instances where your wife's name was run in different combinations by Assistant Prosecutor Michaela Meadows. Do you know why this was done or what purpose it served?
Then I did not, and to this day I really do not, despite having reviewed the interview that she conducted, that was conducted of her by the Washington State Patrol's detectives. The justifications that were provided don't ring true to me. Perhaps those were her true reasons for searching, but essentially what she had indicated was that she was trying to learn about an old case where my wife was not a true victim in the sense that she was harmed, but she was a family member of someone who was murdered here in the Valley in the mid-90s. And if Ms. Meadows wanted to actually learn from these old cases like she's described to the detectives, there were much better ways to do that. One of which would be to go to Douglas County and ask for the police reports that exist in that case, and that would be a very easy thing to do. Spillman, the database, as I understand it anyway, is not the most effective way to actually go and learn about old cases like she says she was doing.
No law enforcement purpose for Ms. Meadows to look up your wife's name to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge.
And this was not the only case where Ms. Meadows was found to have been looking up someone's name without a law enforcement purpose. She also was found to have searched the name of a former assistant prosecutor in her own office, as well as the names of other attorneys around the Valley. And this wound up going to the Washington State Patrol for an outside investigation after you brought it, I believe, to the Chelan County Sheriff's Office. Is that correct?
That's right. And I'll tell you that when I first learned of this issue, not having direct involvement with Spillman myself, not having the ability to access that program, I went to a law enforcement friend of mine, and actually a former law enforcement friend of mine, who I really respect, and asked him essentially, how big of a deal is this? And his comment was both that if he had done what was alleged of Ms. Meadows, unauthorized access into Spillman for non-law enforcement purposes, that he would expect to be placed on administrative leave, an internal investigation to be undertaken, potentially a criminal investigation to be undertaken, and he would expect that he would be at minimum disciplined and at maximum terminated. The other thing that he told me that was significant to me was that Spillman is accessed by the prosecutor by a grant of authority from the Chelan County Sheriff's Office. It's really their access that's then provided to the prosecutor's office. And his concern was that the prosecutor's office's abuse of their access to Spillman could potentially cost the sheriff's office their access, because they report to higher ups as well. And how exactly that works, I don't know. But he told me that I needed to let Mike Morrison know, and so that they could take remedial action and do whatever they needed to do to make sure that the system was protected, and that they didn't lose their access as well, because that would certainly hamper law enforcement's efforts in the Valley.
So the Washington State Patrol investigated and interviewed various people who were involved, including yourself and including Ms. Meadows. Mm-hmm. Their investigation happened over the course of the last couple of months of 2024. It was turned over to the Sheriff's Office in March of 2025. The basic finding was that Ms. Meadows had committed what they called an administrative violation of the Spillman access, but had not committed any criminal violations of state law. That's your understanding of what the report said?
That's my understanding of what the report said. I guess my concern with that, having reviewed, thousands of police reports in my career, it's not common to see, in my experience anyway, to see an investigator opine that no crime was committed. Secondary to that, I had concerns about his application of these facts to that law. What he indicated, and I'm paraphrasing here, but what he had indicated at some level was that he believed her access was authorized because she has a generalized ability to access the Spillman database. So he said that portion of the statute had not been met. I take some issue with that, because I believe that her access was unauthorized. When you exceed the scope of your authorization, your access is no longer authorized. And I see it a little bit like if I buy a ticket to, say, watch the Mariners play. Yes, I've got a ticket to be in the ballpark. I don't have the ability to just go down onto the field and say, well, I've got a ticket to be at the ballpark. I can't be on the field. I don't get to go into the locker rooms. I don't get to hang out in the clubhouse. That would exceed the authorization I have to enter the ballpark and watch the game. And I see this a lot like that. The secondary problem I saw with his application of that computer trespass law is that he placed great reliance on the second element of that offense or that crime is that you have either undertaken this access to facilitate commission of another crime under state law, or that the search was of a governmental database. So unauthorized access is element one. Element two is an or. It's either you've accessed what you're unable to access for the purpose of committing or furthering a crime under state law, or you've accessed a governmental database. And I think both of those elements of unauthorized access and governmental database are pretty clearly hit. That said, my intent was never to have Ms. Meadows charged with a crime. Like I said, I wanted the abuse of her access to stop, number one, because it was directly impacting my family, and number two, because of the concern for what that could do for the county and really our law enforcement's ability to keep the county safe. That was very concerning to me, and I think that this investigation was done knowing full well that the outcome of it would be publicized. I know various media outlets had contacted, including yourself likely, had contacted the detective asking for updates on when a report would be written. And I can't help but wonder if that report was written in such a way as to, to put the best possible light on the situation. And I think there's a concern that maybe this is a bigger issue than just Ms. Meadows and what that Pandora's box they were opening really could result in. So, yeah.
Your livelihood is in criminal defense. You defend people who are accused of sex crimes in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Meadows is or has been the chief criminal deputy in charge of prosecuting sex offenses in Chelan County. Prior to you becoming aware of these searches, had you been on opposing sides of a case with Ms. Meadows prosecuting it?
Boy, I know that she was sort of the protege, for lack of a better way of saying it, to the prior prosecutor who handled sex crimes, and I think that she collaborated with that prior prosecutor on cases that I had with this other prosecutor, and I think she was involved in those.
And that's Julia Hartnell, who's no longer with the Chelan County office.
That's correct. And but in terms of cases that she and I had directly one-on-one, boy, there were a couple that I can think of that she took over, that she had in that short period of time between when Ms. Hartnell left and when these searches were discovered in November of 2023, at least when I went, November is when I went to the sheriff's office with those materials. But I think Ms. Hartnell left, I want to say the end of July 2023 or maybe early August of 2023. So there wasn't much of a span of time there where she and I were dealing directly with one another on cases, although she was assigned those cases after Ms. Hartnell left.
Well, what about now? I mean, if you find yourself defending a case where Ms. Meadows is the opposing prosecutor, does that give you reason to ask the prosecuting attorney's office, Robert Sealby, hey, can you assign somebody else to this case? Or,
well, the backstory on that is that after I had gone to the sheriff's office and spoke with Mike Morrison and Seth Bueller there, I didn't say anything to the prosecutor's office immediately because I was concerned about interfering with the sanctity of law enforcement's investigation. I didn't want to impact that in any way. So I didn't say anything immediately. My recollection is that in January of 2024, I actually did go and sit down with Mr. Sealby and his chief criminal deputy, Ryan Vallis, indicated what I had learned and advised them that I was seeking to have her removed from my cases. And the reason for that is not to make a stink, I think is the language she used with the Washington State Patrol detectives. But my purpose in doing so was she was certainly going to find out that I had made that report. I had concerns about her ability to be objective, fair in my cases anyway. And certainly once she found out that I was the impetus for a law enforcement investigation against her, I didn't think that that would make her be more objective. So my concern was about my obligation to my clients and them getting a fair shake under the law.
Well, what about going forward? I mean, this investigation is complete, but you were the one who incited the investigation based on Ms. Meadows' behavior.
Well, as of now, I've not been advised of any change in the fact that she's not handling any of my cases from the prosecutor's office. That said, I haven't taken a new case since this report has been disclosed, so I don't know what the prosecutor's office intent is as it relates to my cases at this time. I will say that my wife and I are exploring every option available to us, and there may well be reason that she should not have my cases on an ongoing basis, and I think that her objectivity is still in question based upon what I read in this report and in her interview with law enforcement.
Well, Brandon, according to my conversation with Sheriff Morris and Michaela Meadows, now has access to the Spillman system again after having been suspended from it during the period of this investigation from about November until the first part of this year. How do you feel about that?
Well, I would hope that she's learned. Sort of reminds me of when Jack in the Box had their big E. coli outbreak, and I was joking with my dad about where we could get lunch, and he said Jack in the Box is probably the safest place now. So perhaps she's on the straight and narrow as it relates to searches, and I know that that's a valuable tool for prosecutors. So, that's well within the discretion of the Chelan County Sheriff's Office. They're the ones who would ultimately bear the brunt of any misdeeds as it relates to accessing records she shouldn't access. So that's really up to them. They didn't seek my input, and frankly, it's not really my input to give. But that's really their business.
Brandon, can you think about any other aspect of this case that I haven't asked about or that you think people should be aware of?
Well, I think one of the things that I found interesting in reviewing the interview that the Washington State Patrol detectives did of Ms. Meadows is it was unique in the sense that I've never seen a suspect treated or interviewed like they were the victim, asking for impacts upon them for the things that they chose to do. Never seen that, and that was very interesting to me. It seemed to me that investigation was undertaken knowing that it would be made public, and I think that their hope was to put it to bed, give it the appearance of a good, thorough investigation. But it sure appears to me that there were certain things, justifications given by Ms. Meadows that could have very easily have been looked into, could have been corroborated or not, and they were ignored. And what she gave them in terms of justifications was just sort of taken at face value. And I've never seen one of my clients be treated that way. We'll say it that way.
Well, Brandon Redal, Wenatchee Valley Criminal Defense Attorney, thanks a lot for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
You're watching the NCW Live channel.